In this video, we're going to replace the radiator in this 2012 Mitsubishi Outlander. What we're going to do is remove this splash shield to gain access to our drain on our radiator. With a 10mm socket, you have a few bolts here. What's happening behind here on our vehicle, the clips are broken. So they're on the back of the bolts. So now with a panel or a clip tool, we'll go ahead and remove these push pins. I'm just going to use a pick to get it started. Our vehicle does not have all the original clips in the original places, so your clips and styles may be slightly different, but they all basically do the same. They all the same process of removal. Now you can go ahead and remove your splash shield. So now that you have your splash shield removed, if you go to your passenger side and look straight up here behind the radiator support bracket, if you follow that right up and over, you'll find your drain nut. Now you want to rotate this and back it out counterclockwise. You are going to have, what you're going to be doing now is draining the radiator fluid out of the radiator, so you're going to need a collection bucket and some kind of absorption mat or rags down. There will be radiator fluid coming out. So we're going to go ahead and do this now. We're going to go ahead and open the radiator cap. That'll allow air to flow in and the water to flow out without creating a vacuum. Go ahead and release and open that slowly. Let me just set the cap aside. Once you've let your radiator drain and come down to a very slow drip, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the drain plug. You will always have a little bit of radiator fluid, coolant left in the vehicle, so we're not going to worry too much about getting all the drips out. We're just going to snug it up. We're going to be removing the radiator. No need to over tighten. Okay, so to remove this radiator, we're going to go ahead and start by taking the battery out. That'll gain us a little bit more clearance. I'm going to grab a 10mm wrench. Go ahead and remove the terminals. I'm going to start with negative. Wiggle that and pull up. Now we can go ahead and do the positive. Again, 10mm on this side. Just give that a wiggle and pull up. Push that aside. And we can go ahead and just remove our battery. Now we're going to remove this air box up to the air filter. I'm going to remove the air filter also to get us a little bit more clearance and to access the radiator. There's 2 pins down here. Go ahead and use a panel tool or a clip tool. Now there's 2 clips here, just pry open. Grab this air intake here and pull it back to the front of the vehicle. That'll gain you access to your air filter. You can pull that straight up, set that aside. Now you can grab your air intake and rotate that up and out. Go ahead and take this hose clamp off. Okay. Now we can go ahead and remove these hoses. Just pull back and twist. Same thing here, there is no hose clamp on this one. What we'll do is pull that off. And now's a good time if you are reusing your hoses to check, make sure they're not damaged, dry rotted, make sure they're still pliable. These look pretty good. Set them aside. Take off this hose here. Pop it out of this clip. Let's push forward. We can kind of set that aside there. So now with our overflow hose, it runs down to our overflow tank. We're just going to pop it out of this fan assembly. And there's 1, 2, 3, and a 4th clip here. And then you can take your overflow hose and just set that aside out of the way. Now we have access to remove our fan assembly. So now we have access to remove our fan assembly. We're going to remove this wiring harness and these plugs that go to our fans. I'm going to pull this harness out of this clip. Pull straight forward. And with the clip tool, I'm going to pop this clip here. I have one more clip here, just pulls straight out. Okay, now we have access to our electrical connectors. Go ahead and push down the tabs and pull apart your connector. Go ahead and take a look at the connector, it's nice and clean. We'll go ahead and do the same for the other plug. Push down the tab and pull straight up. Nice and clean. Now we can set this harness aside. Now on this fan assembly, there will be a clip right here. We'll have to push that back and pull the fan assembly up past that. So we'll go ahead and do that now. If you follow the top radiator hose to the passenger side and feel down just below where it matches the radiator, that same clip on a fan assembly will be there. Just go ahead and press that back and pull the fan assembly up. Now we're going to have to remove this top radiator hose to be able to pull the assembly straight up. Same thing, grab pliers, squeeze the clip, and rotate. While you're working here and here, these are airbag plugs. with the yellow connectors on them. Be very careful around these plugs not to bend or break. Okay. And we can rotate and pull our hose off of the radiator. Will be some coolant left over, and put that in your pan. So there are two clips on your fan assembly, one up top and one down the bottom. We're going to use a long flat blade screwdriver. I'm going to push that clip in. So we're going to push that clip in, and then we're going to push this clip in on the top and pull the fan assembly up and free. We're going to repeat that process on the other side. So once you've undone your 4 clips, you will still have to wiggle it and pull up and backwards. Once you get it free, being very careful of your airbag plugs, you're going to work that fan assembly out slowly. You will have to work driver to passenger to make sure you're clearing. We're going to go ahead and pull the dipstick tube. Set that aside. Now, let's lift straight out. So we're going to reinstall the dipstick while the radiator and fan assembly is out, just to make sure nothing drops in there. So now we're going to release the hose clamp on the lower radiator hose. If you look through the bottom corner of your radiator grill, you can see the lower radiator hose. I'm going to get on that with a pair of pliers and slide that hose clamp out of the way. This one is a little tough to get to. Out of the way. So right in this area, behind here is the lower radiator hose. We've already removed the clip, pair of pliers, slid the clip backwards. If you follow this down, you've removed the splash shield underneath here. Reach straight up and grab your radiator hose and wiggle it backwards and off the radiator. There will be some coolant down here, so make sure you have a splash pan or rags down. Just go ahead and pop that hose right off. So we're going to go ahead and remove this plastic shroud here, just so we can gain a little bit more visual access, because we're going to go ahead and loosen this top panel. We'll start here with our panel clips and our panel tool. Go ahead and remove this top panel. So now we're going to go ahead and loosen this top support. The 10mm socket, go ahead and take these 4 bolts out. There's 2 more 10mm bolts down through here. Go ahead and back those out. One more through here. So then we have 2 more bolts here. 10mm bolts connecting to the bumper. Go ahead and take those out. So on this bracket here, we have 2 more bolts, one on each headlight right here. Go ahead and take those out. Those are still 10 mils. And one on this headlight. So now we're going to go ahead and remove this plastic shield. Using a pick tool on these clips. There's a clip here, one in back here, one down here, one in back here, one on the end. Go ahead and remove that. So this top panel is almost free. We follow it down. There's 2 10mm bolts behind here. To gain access to one of them, we're going to remove this clip. So you grab a panel tool, squeeze that connector, that clip, pull it out. And with a 10mm socket, go ahead and remove these 2 bolts. So we have an electrical connector that runs across this top bracket. It's easy enough to remove, so we're just going to go ahead and unclip this electrical connector. We're going to use a pick tool for that. Looks pretty good, clean. Now we'll go ahead and with the panel tool, clip tool, remove these clips into the vehicle or into the panel. Set that aside. So now we're going to go ahead and work out this top panel. Our hood latch is still attached, so we will be careful. We're going to rock and get these 2 pieces on top. And this catch in the middle will have to come forward and go under. Now we can lift our piece up and slightly out of the way. Being careful, we still have our airbag electronics connected. So the hood latch cable, there's a clip right in here. We just went ahead and pushed that down. Now if you push this hood latch cable forward, out around this corner, like so. So now, when you can rotate this up, because you need your 2 hands, we're going to go ahead and support with an elastic cord right to the hood latch, just to keep it up and out of the way. Now we have access to our AC condenser clips, which are the same as your radiator clips. They work the same way and they're in the same spot. There's 2 of them. There's 2 clips that we need to address to take our condenser out. This one on the top here. And if you follow it straight down, there's one that looks identical to it. They both work the same way. There's a capture that you have to push back and then pull your condenser up. I'm going to use a flat blade screwdriver and push in the tab on the bottom. Push in the tab on the top and pull straight up. All right, now the condenser is free on this side. Process is the exact same on the other side. So once you've worked out your 4 clips and you have your condenser free, We had luck by working it out evenly, left and right. You can go ahead and pull your condenser up and forward. And now you can remove your old radiator, which will be in some rubber bushings at the bottom. And there will be some coolant leak. Make sure you're over your drip pan. So we're going to go ahead and install our new radiator. What we're going to look for are these two plastic tabs on the bottom. We're going to seat them down into the rubber grommets, taking care of not hitting the radiator fins on any part of the vehicle or other parts. What we're going to do is grab a hold of the AC condenser and just pull it up and out of the way a little. And go ahead and put the driver's side into the pin. We'll go ahead and put the passenger side in. Now we're going to go ahead and mount our condenser back onto the radiator, being careful of these hard AC lines on the passenger side. Pull it up and into the clips. 2 clips on each side, top and bottom. What you'll need to do is pull it up and over this clip and push back and down. We got that seated halfway. We're going to do the driver's side now. Now that you have this top panel moved up and out of the way, now would be a good time to install your radiator fans. We're going to head and do that. Go and slide this in here. Again, taking care not to rub against the fins of the radiator. Just go ahead and work this in slowly. And the same 2 clips that were used for your condenser are the same 2 clips we're going to reinstall the fan assembly onto. So I'll go ahead and line this up on the driver's side. Getting them mostly seated, both left and right, and then we'll push it into place at the same time. So now that our radiator, condenser, fan unit is one piece, we're going to go ahead and start reassembling the top. We'll take this cord off. And we'll rotate this forward. Before we do that, we're going to have to move this hood latch cable back around. That bracket. And you're going to need to work this front piece in and clear these 2 horns here from the front of the bumper. And you'll get to a certain point where now you have to seat your top radiator pins into the grommets here. So we'll go ahead and line those up, put them in now. Here's one. The other one fell in place. And now we'll put that bracket underneath. And we can start reinstalling our bolts. So now we can reinstall our bolts, securing this panel in place. We'll go ahead and put our 10 mil bolts back in. Just start them by hand. Before we move on to our other bolts, we can now clip our hood latch cable back in place. Okay. Move on to the other side. So then you have another bolt down here and one on the opposite side. We'll go ahead and put those in now. We have our two front bolts here, connect to the bumper. Go ahead and put those in. Again, these are all 10 mil. Now we have two more bolts to go back in here. So now we have our last two bolts, one on each headlight right here. Again, 10 mil. So now we're going to reinstall our radiator hoses. Before we do the top radiator hose, we're going to reinstall our overflow tank hose. There are a few clips. One's back here. Runs right across the top of your fan assembly into your fan assembly. Last clip. And we're not going to connect it to the top just yet. It'll leave us a little bit of access to put our top radiator hose on. So go ahead and put our top radiator hose on now. What I like to do is make sure that these clamps are spun in a direction that you can get to them. Go ahead and slide your top radiator hose on. And squeeze your clamps and reinstall them. And now you can install your overflow hose back on. So before you reconnect your hoses on this end, we're going to go ahead and reconnect your electrical connectors. And they're going to clip back in to the fan assembly here. And this wire loom is going to get tucked in there. And there. This plug gets plugged back in till you hear a click. This one there till you hear a click. Now we're going to reconnect our other harness that goes to our hood latch. Clip these back in. Go ahead and connect that in. This electrical connector here, we're just going to clip it back into this panel. We're going to go and connect this radiator hose back in. It's going to go into this clip onto radiator. And we will squeeze this hose clip and put it back in place. And now we'll grab the second half of the upper radiator hose. Put that back in place. Same thing, squeeze the clip and slide it back up. So now we're going to reattach our lower radiator hose. Again, if you look through the bottom of the grill, you can get some kind of view on it. So we switched over to a small pair of locking pliers. Just give us a little bit more room to work. That's it. So now we're going to reinstall this splash shield. Just going to set it up, line it up with our holes. We're going to reinstall our bolts first. These are 10mm bolts. Just start them by hand. With a 10mm socket, I'll go ahead and tighten these in. And then we'll go ahead and reinstall our clips. And these last two clips on both sides, you have your fender liner, your bumper, and your splash shield, all three to line up. Now go ahead and install this plastic shield underneath your hood latch. Every plastic clip here, here, center, and two on the side. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this shield cover on. Now these tabs will go underneath this gasket on your front bumper. We'll go ahead and do that first. Just lift that gasket a little, slide them under. Now we'll go ahead and install our 4 clips. I'm going to reinstall our air intake to the air filter box. Just going to angle the front in and rotate it into place. We'll go ahead and put those 2 front clips in now. There are two clips at the bottom of this that seat into matching opening. There it is. You take your air filter. What you want to do is, with the pushing downward, press these two open enough to slide your air filter in. And rotate and push your two clips in on your air filter housing. Now we can install our battery. Drop that into position. Grab our 10mm wrench. Start by reconnecting our negative terminal. Just tighten that down until your terminal doesn't wiggle. And repeat for the positive. Again, 10mm. Go ahead and tighten that down. We're going to go ahead and refill our antifreeze now. It takes 10 quarts. We're going to use 50/50 pre-diluted, so we'll just go ahead and pour it in. So we've got about 3/4 of a gallon of 50/50 pre-diluted antifreeze in there, and now it's starting to bubble out, which tells us we've put as much in as we can now. What we need to do is, with the cap off, run the vehicle. Run it for a few minutes up to operating temperature. You'll know the operating temperature is reached when your fans kick on for your radiator. You may have to raise your idle to about 1500 to 2000 RPM every so often, just to get that operating temperature up. Once that happens, let it run for a couple of minutes. What will happen is your air will be purged out of the top. You'll see some bubbles. Once you've done that, shut the vehicle off and refill or top off your antifreeze to your top level here. Then you can go ahead and reinstall your antifreeze, your radiator cap. There are 2 notches in your cap. I'm going to line those up with your notches here. Press down and turn until it's locked in place.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.